Welcome to today's Explainer. Let's just treat this as our own private one-on-one coaching session. Because look, if you're building software or managing any kind of project, you already know that translating what people actually want into what developers literally build, well, it's one of the hardest parts of the job. It's exactly why so many of those massive traditional requirement documents just end up as expensive paperweights. But today, we're going to fix that. We are totally transforming the way you think about requirements. We're moving away from those rigid, heavily documented rules, and we're going to master dynamic, agile user stories. I'm super excited to be your mentor for this journey. So let's clear the distractions and dive right in. So I want to start things off by throwing a question directly at you. How do we turn rigid rules into flexible software? It's kind of meant to be a Socratic question, really. Think about the inherent challenges of traditional software development for a second. Did you know that miscommunication of requirements is historically one of the absolute top reasons software projects just completely fail? It's true. You spend months writing out this massive document detailing exactly what a system should do, but, by the time you actually build the thing, the market has completely shifted, or the customer changed their mind, or the tech has evolved. The rules were rigid, right? But reality is fluid. So if our goal is to build software that actually serves the user, we have to totally rethink how we capture what they actually need. Okay, to figure out where we're going, we first need to establish our baseline. A traditional functional requirement is typically defined as a clear, documented statement of what a system, product, or process must do or achieve. Now, really notice the language there. It focuses purely on the system's output, right? The system must do X. The product must achieve Y. And sure, while that sounds very precise and professional, it completely ignores the single most important variable in the entire equation, the human being actually using the system. It essentially dictates a really cold command to a machine rather than actually articulating a human need. Now, this completely nails the paradigm shift we need to make. Think about a mountain coming into focus. In the traditional rigid world, we basically try to force that crystal clear picture on the far right on day one, literally before we even start walking toward the mountain. But in an agile mindset, we accept that our understanding of what to build comes into focus gradually. Over on the left, we start with a blurry, high-level idea. And then, as we collaborate, as we gather feedback, and as time actually goes on, those requirements get refined and the picture becomes sharp. We don't need heavy, upfront documentation to take the first step. We just need enough clarity to start moving. Let's actually see this transformation in action using a pretty straightforward e-commerce example. On the left side here, we have our old-school functional requirement. The system shall allow users to filter products by price range. It's incredibly dry and it's completely system-focused. But now look at the agile user story on the right. As a shopper, I want to filter products by price range so that I can quickly find items within my budget. Do you see that shift? We've moved away from a cold system command to actually focusing on the human user, the shopper, and the real value they're getting out of it. We now know exactly who we're building for, what they want, and most importantly, why they want it. And that why is exactly what gives your development team the context they need to build a truly great solution. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that's great for a tiny feature, but what about those really massive requirements? Well, in agile environments, large requirements almost always start as what we call an epic. An epic is just a high-level body of work. Take our example here, product filtering by price range, to enable customers to refine searches and improve usability. If you're working in tools like Jira, this is exactly where you start. But here's the catch. An epic is just way too big to tackle all at once. Honestly, if you hand this entire thing to a developer, it's completely overwhelming. To make it actionable, we absolutely have to break it down. All right, so let's dive right into this and slice that massive epic into much more manageable pieces. This is a really crucial coaching moment for us, so definitely pay attention here. We take that big, chunky idea of product filtering, and we start creating smaller, bite-sized user stories. So instead of one giant, intimidating task, we now have 4 specific, highly actionable capabilities: setting a minimum price, setting a maximum price, persisting the filter across pages, and resetting filters easily. Boom. Each of these becomes its own individual user story. They're small enough to actually be completed in a single development cycle, but together, they build out the entire epic. But listen, as your mentor, I've got to make sure you aren't just writing small stories. You need to be writing high-quality stories. So how do you actually evaluate your work? You use the INVEST criteria created by Bill Week. This is literally your ultimate checklist. I stands for independent, so your story shouldn't be tangled up with weird dependencies. N is for negotiable. Remember, a story is not a rigid contract, it's completely open to discussion. V is for valuable, meaning it actually has to deliver real value to the user. E is estimable, because the team needs to be able to guess how complex the work is. S is for small, it should fit easily within a single sprint. And finally, T is testable. We have to know exactly how to prove the story is actually finished. If your broken down stories can pass this invest test, you are in absolutely phenomenal shape. Okay, so how does all of this actually build into a real daily workflow? Well, I want to completely dispel a major myth right now. A user story is not just some document that you write up and throw over the wall to a developer. No way. A user story is actually a prompt for collaboration. It's basically an invitation to talk. And this specific framework brilliantly transitions us from just, writing things down to actually communicating with each other. It introduces us to the 3 Cs process, which honestly is the beating heart of how successful Agile teams bring requirements to life. Let's drill down into each of these steps in order. The really crucial thing to grasp here is that this process has 3 distinct phases. First up is the card. This is where you actually write the user story down. As a user, I want X so that Y, often on a literal physical index card or more likely a digital ticket. But remember, the card is literally just a placeholder, because that card's entire purpose in life is to spark step 2, the conversation. This right here is where the absolute magic happens. You, the developers, the designers, you all get together and have a rich face-to-face discussion about what to build, hashing out all the little details and resolving any kind of ambiguity. And finally, out of that amazing conversation comes the confirmation. This is the part where everyone agrees on the acceptance criteria. It's this beautiful shared definition of exactly how you will confirm the software is totally done and working correctly. So it's card, conversation, confirmation. It takes a rigid requirement and magically turns it into a shared understanding. Wow, okay, we've covered a lot of ground in our session today. We've shifted from cold system requirements all the way to user-centric stories. We've taken massive epics and sliced them down into manageable chunks. We've passed our stories through that invest checklist, and we've completely mapped out the 3 Cs process. So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to take right back to your desk. Take a look at the user stories you're currently working on. You might have the card part written out absolutely perfectly, but honestly ask yourself, is it truly ready for the conversation? Does it really focus on human value? And does it genuinely invite collaboration? I strongly urge you to take your current project and apply both the Invest and 3 Cs frameworks to it right away. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Now, go take a look at your backlog and start having some real conversations. Happy building!